So this is my answer for the viva that was present in the question paper to the professor watching this. I'm going to proceed line by line with each point as mentioned in the question paper for further clarity and lack of confusion. So first of all, can I describe various investment vehicles and financial markets available to investors? Absolutely. The thing of it is, in the three questions that were provided, there wasn't exactly any knowledge to be gained as to the various different uh, financial investment vehicles that exist in the market. It was primarily focused on stock portfolio creation, as well as IPOs, as well as basically mostly stocks. It was entirely focused on stocks, but I mention IPOs because it's a different context, but with stocks as well. But yeah, other than that, you have bonds, options, currency exchange markets. You even have somewhat unconventional investment markets, which are essentially in the financial markets. Like people invest in cars or paintings or jewelry or watches, and these are known to actually outperform the general market by rather large percentage in certain cases, as with the case with watches. But we're not going to talk about that here. As for measuring the risk and return characteristics of securities and portfolios, I think it will be pretty clear when you actually see my report that I actually used a very methodical, formulaic approach as described in our curriculum to calculate the risk and return of each stock in my created portfolio of 20 stocks. And yes, it was based on modern portfolio theory, and the bond pricing strategy that was used was, well, there wasn't really any bonds to price. The only bond mentioned was the risk-free rate that was to be assumed as part of like calculating the level of portfolio risk. And the risk-free rate I used was UAE government bonds, which I assumed to be around 3.5%. I mean, depending upon the type of bond that you buy from the UAE government, like the level of risk changes, but we can sort of, like looking at the data, we can sort of say a good, statistical average would be around 3.5%. And and then we come to the next point, obviously, the understanding like of the role of an investment company in portfolio management and techniques used. Okay, we're not going to talk about the entire point. The thing is, I understand that, the reason why portfolio management companies exist is because the people that have the actual capital to invest in the markets aren't necessarily the sort of people that can do this sort of work themselves. You cannot expect somebody to, for example, run a business. I say this as an entrepreneur myself. I run an e-commerce business. I can't sit and sift through hundreds of different stocks and bonds and options and all of these millions potentially investment vehicles that exist to determine which one is going to best suit my financial goals. I mean, I of course learn to do it here, but assume like I'm doing it in the real world. I have a business to run, I have things to manage, I am a very busy individual, you know. So I assume in the future I will need someone that does this professionally, who is far better than me. It's like a simple thing of, can you fix your own car? If you ask me, yeah, I can fix my own car, but do I want to in the interest of better things? Certainly not. So it's very clear to me why investment companies exist, and this exercise has made that pretty clear. And then there's the question about behavioral biases and how they impact investment decisions. So here's the thing. This is the big thing I actually wanted to talk about in this Viva video. Um, the thing of it is, I think a large percentage of technical analysis that people do is basically it surmounts to financial astrology. If I'm being brutally honest, it is a rather extreme opinion, I know, but one that many people share when it comes to investing. I believe that value investing is the best strategy overall. I believe that we are running out of time, so I'll end this point quickly. I believe that the intrinsic value of the product or service offered by a company is the most important metric, and not exactly stock charts or candlesticks. But that being said, there is a certain level of use to it, and I have to acknowledge that. There are certain, small benefits that you can gain from understanding patterns. There is a likelihood, of course, that is more than zero, that, for example, if something happened in history, it is not far-fetched to assume it can happen again. World War One happened, and everyone thought World War One would be the last world war. They called it the Great War back then, the war to end all wars. And then just a couple of decades later, not even a couple of decades later, came the sequel. So human beings often have repeating patterns of behavior. So it's not far-fetched to assume the same applies to a market entirely sort of run on the baseline of human needs and wants and desires and human behavior psychology. So it's obviously, that being said, when it comes to the actual practice of trading, what I do understand is that the vast majority of people that invest or trade stocks are not exactly institutional investors or professionals. These are regular Joes like you and me. And a lot of people tend to make mistakes. They tend to allow their emotions to affect their trading strategy, and this can create, less than desired returns. A lot of people tend to lose their money in the market. And I think my report and all that I've described using the actual strategies and practices and things taught to us should make that pretty clear. And I think we're way over time for this video, so I'm just going to end it right here. Thank you, Professor, for reading this far. Hope you enjoyed my report.